Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Jeff Fischer.
Jared Brandon.
Me, Todd Novak, and we've got a super special all-star guest, and that is...
That's your kid.
All-star?
All-star.
Oh, you're giving me far too much credit. This is Johnny from Alchemy Audio and calling from Chicago.
Johnny Balmer. He is
Yes.
on the phone with us. We've been fortunate enough to been playing around with some of the pedals that he sent our way. And so we're going to be talking with him for the main guts of this show. So glad you are listening. So glad you are with us. And try not to steer, shred, and drive at the same time during the podcast. I don't know. Okay. I saw like a whole bunch of like don't text and drive messages on the way, and just went like, well, I'm like playing steering wheel drums and guitars and everything. Is that bad too? I don't know. All right, so Jared, why don't you kick us off? What's going on in your music world this week?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I've got your guitar at my house. It's
Which one?
Thief?
Which one is that?
right.
That the stinky one?
No, not
Okay,
stinky.
good.
The guitar is not stinky. The case maybe a little, but
Yeah,
no,
I bought a
it's,
cheap case that stunk too.
it's a Squier Telecaster, and it actually has some Duncan design P90s. The bridge sounds really good. I think the neck is okay, but when you combine the two pickups together, it's a real mushy.
Yeah.
There's just too much going on there.
It sounds like a bowl of oatmeal with gravy.
Yeah,
in it.
it's almost like, being out of phase might sound a little more normal. It's crazy. So we'll address that. And another thing is amplifiers. I've been kind of wondering about looking into putting together my own Plexi clone, and I've been trying to.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, so I called Mojo Tone down in North Carolina or South Carolina, I don't remember which. I've been doing business with them for a long time, so I called one of the amp guys down there and be like, hey man, I think I want to start my own Plexi clone, and he's like, no, you don't want to start on a 40 watt. You want to start on like a Fender Champ style amp. I'm like, yeah, okay,
You mean as far as complexity?
No,
Or
man.
What do you say?
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're right. Complexity and 40 watts is a lot of power to be messing with when you've never built an amp or anything like that. So
I think any power inside of those is pretty deadly.
Well, of course, but anyway. So after that phone call, I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just buy a Plexi clone that somebody else put together, and I'll just maybe do some mods to it or something.
Or you get a cheap amp and run a Plexi pedal. Johnny, you got any of those?
Plexi pedals?
There you go.
Yeah, he was trying to figure out a way to, to get the Plexi sound out of without having to buy a Plexi.
See, I should come up with a pedal that makes your amp, regardless of how boutique and expensive, sound like a PB Bandit.
There it is. There it is, man.
What's wrong
I had
with
one.
the PV Bandit? What's wrong with that?
Jeff has one.
I have 3. I have the brown one and the
He has them
blonde one.
He has them all in a stack. They're all taped together.
I got one of those. What I take on it? What is it? It's a 30 watt. It's a 30 watt Buddha amp. That thing just kills my eardrums. So
You have too many amps.
I do have a lot of amps.
Why do you need another one?
I don't. So after messing with that Buddha amp, and it's so loud, and it's just a 30 watt, it just totally killed my desire to have any more powerful amps. But that was my whole thought process, and it's over. And I don't think I'm gonna mess with wanting a Marshall Plexi.
It sounds like you need some amp Viagra.
I'll just I'll just borrow somebody else's at some point.
All right, cool. So yeah, you were checking to see if we want to drop some new pickups in that
I was going to ask,
Telecaster.
why does he have your guitar?
Well, I just wanted to check it out because I've been trying to figure out, like, I'm not totally down with the sound, and I wanted to.
Tell you what I'll do.
On the front or in general?
I'll take all the wire off and I'll put a tapping like there's usually around 10,000 wines in a P90 to get about 7 to 8K. I'll put a tap halfway through the wine. That way you can cut half the power off, and then
That's tricky.
Yeah, have a little a switch, and if you want to combine the two pickups,
More
it won't be so muddled. And we can also go in phase and out of phase too.
Yeah, F that. I just the tap is cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, the tap. That's the
All right.
Tap. Nothing better than the tap.
Tippy tap.
Tap.
It depends what tap it is. Some taps really hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Hefe.
Yeah, I'm going to go down that same path of tapping.
Okay.
Where I was having issues with my pickup where the screws actually come down into the guitar body so you can raise and lower the pickup, right?
Into the feet, yeah.
The feet, that's the word.
Yeah.
The feet. Well, one stripped, so thing just kept popping up and I couldn't lower and raise it any longer.
You're having the agony of defeat.
The feet. So I was going to have Jarrett fix it, so I was going to pull it out and bring it in and I think I can maybe figure something out to make this thing work. So I did. I just put like a little bent piece of metal and re-screwed it through there and rethreaded it, and it's holding. But the thing I did do was flip the pickup around.
Ooh.
This is the neck pickup. And I do have that pickup tapped. So I
Is
can
it a
run
humbucker or a
It's a
single coil?
humbucker.
Oh, you can take the screws out and have even more craziness.
What?
Yeah, you pop the screws out.
What happens when that
You'll
happens?
have less craziness.
Yeah, there's less magnification.
Oh, yeah.
So there's less draw. So it's like you get a homemade tap.
How much does that
it's
cut
just
it down?
permanent.
It'll just make it a little weaker on that one side.
Yeah.
I have to do that.
It'll change.
That's
the
a common
tone.
fix though. Like was it hollow bodies? I think people with hollow bodies tend to, for some reason I'm thinking hollow bodies here. I almost did that to my Sheraton to to flip the pickup and then take out the screws just to get a really different sound out of that neck.
Well, of course.
I might have to try that. See what the screws do.
Yeah, and that would be really easy.
Yeah. And the flipping, I was actually surprised how much of a difference it did make.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a subtlety, but it is different,
Yeah.
which I find it to be better. And the fact that I can now cut one of the coils out
That is interesting.
and run it with my bridge, right?
Yeah.
In a single coil setup. So I can basically run it, because I have two humbuckers in it. That's it. And
Yeah.
both of them are tapped. So I can run them both as single coils now, which is,
That's sexy.
well, I could be four, but the flip was, I liked it. I liked the flip.
Okay.
The flip and the tap.
The flip and the
You know, the flip's
There's
not
no
gonna
way
do,
we're gonna not get around this.
The flip's not going to do a lot of. It's not going to do any type of big tone
Nope.
difference at all. It won't. Taking the pulls out will. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're,
Have to
you're
try that.
cutting off the magnification. You know,
Did I say magnification? Magnetification.
Magnetifying.
Yeah.
Magnetic flux.
Yeah. Johnny,
Yes.
save us here, buddy. What's going on in your music world?
What is going on? Well, a few things. I am organizing an inaugural gear swap.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That looks really cool.
It's on the 15th.
Yeah, the facility that I practice at is home to about 125 band rehearsal rooms,
Jeez.
and most of which are shared by more than one band. So there's easily a couple hundred bands that rehearse at this facility,
Wow.
along with recording studios, production companies. They do a lot of film and television shooting there. They do, there's music attorneys, all kinds of stuff, but the common thread is it's all kind of arts and entertainment and music all under one roof. And so they've got this giant kind of airplane hangar space in the front of the building where they do a lot of television shooting. And I'm taking over that space this Saturday. By the time this airs, I'm sure it will have passed. But we're inviting a lot of different vendors to buy, sell, and trade gear. And then in addition to that, we've got food trucks, coffee from a local coffee shop, beer from a local brewery, live music.
Holy moly.
Yeah,
Sounds
so
like
all-
the best thing ever.
It has been the bane of my existence for the last 4 weeks, trying to wrestle all this stuff together and wrestle all the vendors together. And but it's been a labor of love.
I got a plan.
Yes,
I can go up to that big shindig, right, for a little while, and then I'll go up to Wisconsin and watch a football game up there.
Are you gonna go?
The Buckeyes versus Wisconsin. Now the tickets are probably really expensive because it's a really big game up there.
Yeah, that's a big one. You should go to the swap meet.
You know what? That
Dude,
sounds
I'd go to that in a
actually this
heartbeat.
swap meet sounds like one of the funnest swap meets ever.
Well, the plan is to do it spring and fall. So this will be the first one. It's shaping up to be a good event, and people seem to be excited about it. So hopefully we'll be able to pull it off. And then the next one, I've already got some kooky ideas to make it better the next time. So
Wow.
yeah,
Food trucks, beer, and
The only
gear.
thing that would make that better would be like that night would be all bands playing.
yes.
That would be awesome. You're gonna be like Mr. Chicago.
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on, not only with the music scene, but with all people that do kind of like what I do, where, you've got Daredevil Pedals is based here, Chicago Stomp Works. They're actually going to be at the event.
Right.
You've got a lot of different amp builders and luthiers, and I'm trying to bring all that under one roof, and kind of collectively we can promote the scene and promote each other. And
Yeah. It's a super rich area, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I've been to a fair amount of these types of events, and they're usually kind of way out in the suburbs where a lot of people that, might not drive, can't get to, and some are better promoted than others. And so, there's been times when I'll participate in one of these and there'll be 30 people through the door. And, so I'm really trying to like base this right in the heart of the city and create more of an event beyond just the people there that are buying and selling gear. So fingers crossed. It sounds like it's going to be a good turnout, and I hope it becomes something that I want it to be.
Man, oh man. Okay, we are absolutely there in spring, fellas.
Yes, I'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. What have I been up to this week?
what have you been doing?
What have I been doing? I have been playing around with a combination of fuzz and drive, trying to get the right mix. We got a show coming up, and it's for Halloween, so we're going to throw in a couple Misfits tunes, and that's it's kind of weird to get such a tightly packed, over fuzzy, lo-fi sound. If you don't get it right, it just sounds like it doesn't sound right. Misfits have a really specific sound from the guitars, and it's not one that I think most people try to achieve. So it's I was using the fuzz. I'm like, that's just not it. It's just not it. And I recently built an MKC3. So it's a modified Klon clone. And built that one myself. And so it's sitting right next to the fuzz. I'm like, this is probably going to blow the crap out of my amp and speakers, but I'm going to try it really quick. And I kick that on with it. I freaking sound exactly like it sounds exactly like the guitar sound. Exactly. I couldn't believe it. So
Congratulations.
yeah, that was kind of neat.
Good job.
And yeah, thanks, Jeff. And that was through the one of El Rey's fuzz pedal. I'm trying to think of which one. It's the one with the girl on it, the pinup. Oh, I can't remember the name. It's like it's L something. They're all kind of like that. Anyways, he's gonna kill me for forgetting. Sorry. And let's see. It is the no, not the Mas Huevos. It is the It's the Fuzz de la Muerte. That's it. Fuzz de la Muerte. It's a good little fuzz pedal. I like it. It's got a bunch of switches on it and junk. It's cool. So that in my clone made me sound very, very eerie.
Yeah, that's a crazy pedal. I remember demoing that pedal as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of choices on it.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what I've been toying around with. Fuzz pedals are a heck of a lot of fun. Johnny, I got a couple questions for you before we get into your main story, so that the knobs here and anybody listening can kind of get a better sense of what's going on with you. But just some gear questions for you, like your own personal preferences and stuff. Tell us about some of the guitars you have and what you like and why.
Yeah. I tend to be drawn, whether it's guitars, amps, or pedals, I tend to be drawn toward the more kind of esoteric, oddball stuff. For a couple of reasons, just because I kind of like the unique, rare quality of something that not everyone has, but also just, quite frankly, what my budget will allow. I don't have the kind of dough to drop, $5,000 on some vintage guitar or $1,000 or $2,000 on a vintage pedal. So it's more fun to me to find those kind of under the radar things and the, so-called sleeper guitars and amps. So, I'm a big fan of low wattage tube amps. For practical reasons, obviously, just because I'm not currently playing in a band, so I just like to be able to crank something up and move some air with it, but at the same time not rip your head off with a 100-watt amp.
Yeah.
And so at the shop I've got one of those Swart Space Tones, little 5-watt ones that are kind of based on a Champ circuit that I like a lot. That amp it's loud and it sounds much larger than its size would indicate. It really fills the room. And what else do I have? I've got a Reason amplifier that I really like. I'm not sure what the current status of that company is. They were started by, I think the main designer had a history at St. Louis Music prior to that. So he was one of their designers for Crate and Ampeg and all that. And then I think currently he's with Magnatone.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what Reason the status is. They're big endorsee, and I'm not sure if he still is associated with the company, was Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes.
Okay.
And so what I liked about the amp that I have at the shop, it's just a little 2 or 8 watt switchable head, is it's 2 channels, but then you can also cascade those 2 channels together, and that's kind of like the so-called high gain channel.
Right.
It's a really cool little amp and packs a lot of features and a lot of punch for its size. As far as guitars, I've got an Epiphone 339 that I really like a lot. And I put some bare knuckles pickups in there that I think sound really great. I've got
what
one
color
of those,
is that?
It's the Pelham blue color.
Oh yeah, I like the.
Yeah, and it's got the bare knuckles P90s in it. It's a great sounding guitar.
Now, what's the inlay? Is that Dot or is that the?
Yeah, it's the Dot ones.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I've got a Framus Hollywood. It's like a double cutaway. I don't know how to explain it. Are you familiar with those ones?
The Framus.
Yeah, it's a different company. I don't know a lot of people that play them. I think Earl Slick played one. I'm trying to describe what it looks like. I mean, it's a double cutaway.
Headstock looks like. It kind of looks like a
3 on a side, not too dissimilar from a Les Paul.
Oh, okay. Does your double cutaway have a tone selector on it?
It's got a pickup selector that selects the tone, but it's this oddball kind of
lever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
With the volume and tone.
I love
really,
a double cutaway, man.
It is a really cool guitar. And that's another one that like not a lot of people know about, but I think it's a really cool looking and sounding guitar. I've got a
really interesting pickups on those. Do you have the original pickups in them?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Those
With
are
the
cool.
really big
Giant screws.
flathead screws
Yes.
as pole pieces. Yeah.
What else? I mean, the only thing vintage that I own is an old, like early 70s Guild. It's the S100. So it's like their SG copy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that one, that's an amazing guitar. And that one's completely stock.
Those are really hard to find, actually.
Yeah. They've kind of, become popular with, I think there's a few people that play them that have kind of brought attention to them.
Well, Kim Thale really
Yes.
knocked out of the part. I mean, when
Yep.
in his prime, it's like you couldn't. That's when they all got bought up, I think.
Yeah. And this one, when I bought it, I got it cheaply because there was an inlay missing on the neck and there was some binding missing. And so it definitely needed some love. And I just brought it to one of the local shops that I have a relationship with. And they fix it up to the point where you can't even, if I didn't tell you that some of that stuff had been replaced, they would never know. I mean, the way they were able to blend it is incredible.
What's the market value on one of those right now in say fair condition?
I see them going like 1,000 range.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
A friend of mine had one of those in high school. He probably gave a few $100 for it, if any.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Well, and you probably have seen that
20 years
Nature
ago.
Boy model that has like the acorn inlays and stuff.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, those ones are crazy.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and I mean, otherwise, I try and not get too attached to any gear because I'm, like anyone, I'm constantly buying, selling, and trading and stuff. But those are probably the mainstays that I've had for a long time that I probably won't get rid of anytime soon.
What's your one that you regret getting rid of?
Well, when I was younger and playing in bands in the 80s, I owned several Les Pauls and some old Plexi Marshalls that, who knew at the time that these things would be, tomorrow's vintage, if only I had known. And,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as soon as Guns N' Roses hit, forget about buying a Les Paul cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's everybody's got one that they, one or two that they regret getting rid of.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I mean, you're obviously pedal meister. So, now you've got a whole shop of pedals, but tell us about your own personal little stock. What do you gravitate towards?
Surprisingly not a ton. I'm a huge tremolo fan, so I probably have more tremolo pedals than anything. And the same goes for amplifiers. Like if I had to choose between reverb and tremolo, I'd much rather have an amp with a tremolo on it because especially some of those old Fenders, nothing beats the tremolo sound on those. I've got a really nice old Vibro Champ at the shop that the tremolo on there is just magic.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
I saw a video maybe a year or two ago about a company that's taking old organ guts like B3s or they're taking the tremolo units out of those and they're rebuilding just the tremolo effect alone from the organ and selling them. And they're doing a really nice job of encasing the tremolo
Those are
unit.
Super expensive though.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
like
about.
$900, right?
Yeah,
so
they're like close to $1,000.
Is it kind of like an amp top, kind of standalone tremolo?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're encasing it in beautiful wood grain cabinetry and it's kind of a big standalone unit, kind of like the Fender Reverb.
Can you imagine seeing somebody? There's got to be somebody, all right. But can you imagine going to a show and seeing the dude that rolls out with like a reverb tank, an old like Echoplex and this massive tremolo?
Yeah, like the tremolo is probably
my board
worth more than his amp. You know what I mean? I mean, those things are really expensive, but they're getting all these old organs from who knows where, and
organ donors probably.
I mean, just the cost cost of the logistics it's probably why these things cost so much,
Yeah.
Just getting the old units.
Or anytime you say logistics, it's usually important.
Oh yeah. Of course.
So tremolo, okay, that's cool. And now, what else? Walk us through a couple of your other.
Fuzz is always great, and there's so many flavors of that that's such a dangerous rabbit hole to fall down.
Sure. All right, now when you're doing fuzz, I've found that people tend to say I'm either a splatter fuzz guy or I'm a like a hairy fuzz guy.
I can go either way. The splatter within reason, because like there's some stuff that I have where it's fun to mess around with on your own, but I don't really find a usable application for it in a band setting.
Yeah.
If it gets a little too out there and too crazy. Yeah.
Okay. And then any other gear of note that you think is worth sharing, or that you have special, or?
Well, my friends at reverb.com just released a funky vintage episode today, which I'm sure you can find on YouTube, that's featuring my Roland Bebop Fuzz from the 70s.
Oh.
And so I was just over at their headquarters. They're also based here in Chicago. And so we did a little run through of that. And that's kind of I guess if I had like a prized possession for effects, that's definitely one of them, because that thing is, it's crazy sounding.
I mean, just think for a moment. Think back, 2 years ago? Maybe a year ago. Think about life before reverb.
I know.
That it's mental. Like, how have we that's like thinking about life without a cell phone. It's like, how did we even do this?
And every time I go there, it's, they're taking over another floor of a building, and there's like 100 more people running around there than I remembered from my last visit. Yeah. And it's just insane, like how fast they are growing.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird, because it's like, well, of course this is something. How has this not been something?
They built a better mousetrap.
Damn. Well, hallelujah for those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, that helps us. I think us specifically, which is important, because this is us. But anybody who's listening now has, I think, a much better understanding of what you're about from your own musical tastes. The big reason we have you on is to hear about what it is that you do, your makership, the fingerprint that you're putting on musical gear. And Johnny was nice enough to send us a box of goodies. We had, I think my personal favorite was the big rat.
Mine too.
That was great, man. I loved the sound of that.
I like that one the most as well.
Awesome.
I don't know what you would call that. That was the big box rat. So
reissue, of course. I wouldn't want to, start drilling into an original. But
and you had the dead bat mod on that.
Yes.
And I think there was like 2 or 3 mods that you did on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some circuit mods that I do, as well as installing the 3-position diode switch that a lot of modders do, and that just lets you dial in some different tone flavors, I guess.
Yeah. And
then the dead bat circuit was something that I started doing a while ago, and I think I'm probably one of the only people doing it, that allows you to adjust the voltage being fed to the circuit from the full 9 volts down, and then you can dial in some pretty cool tones. And it's pretty sensitive, so as you probably saw, you could really find a sweet spot for it to what you liked. And
well, that was the cool thing. I was like, knob, strum, knob, strum, and then bang, and you're like, oh, ooh. Damn, that sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I liked it. And then
sweet spot.
You also hooked us up with the BYOC fuzz.
Yep.
Which was fun.
Yep.
And a standalone dead bat, that was a heck of a lot of fun, just like plugging in between all my pedals and going like, what does this do? What does this do?
Yeah.
And I think, you specifically said, hey, this is going to sound real good on a fuzz.
Fuzz,
or
wah,
distortion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I paired that with the BYOC. It had lemon overtones and a woody aftertaste. And then you also threw in a bass overdrive.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And I plugged that into the guitar just to see what happened. Yeah. So
and your guitar didn't blow up?
It didn't.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, was it supposed to? Did I miss out on that?
You never know with those bass pedals.
Now, truth be told, I did turn everything way low because, I was like, I don't know what this is going to do, and I don't want to blow anything out. So, anyways.
I recall, that's the signature sound of the Melvin's guy.
Is
using
it really?
Bass pedal. Yeah, bass overdrive. I think that's... That's what he's been doing for a long time.
Wow, wicked.
There you go.
And then I recently had done a mod on a SD1.
Nice.
And so I appreciated, you put it on the side. You put the toggle on the side.
Oh.
I did my toggle in between the tone and level.
Well, it depends on if you're using the 3-lug toggles or the 6-lug. I'm personally a fan of the 6-lug ones.
Okay. Yeah.
I just think they have a neater look when you have all the stuff attached there. It's the challenge is finding space inside the pedal to mount those, because those would probably not mount by the volume pots or.
It is a very tightly packed pedal in there.
Yes, but
yeah.
I just think the finished product looks a little better.
Yeah,
and it's probably a little bit more durable because with the 3-lug switches that I used to use as well. You're trying to connect these wires from there to some diodes on the circuit board that are always kind of like precariously attached. And because any of the mods I do, I really strive to make them reliable, because I sell to everyone from the basement player to someone that tours.
Yeah.
And the last thing I would want is for what I do to compromise the durability or the quality of that particular pedal.
Yeah,
so I want to be able to throw it on a pedal board and go tour around the world and not have it be compromised at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Those bosses, when you open those up, it's like, wait, is this a good idea? Anyways. Okay. So, all right, we should have we've hopefully have painted a great landscape, a great scenery, a scenario.
Yes.
So would you please indulge us and tell us a little bit about what you do exactly, how you got to do it, and anything else that comes to mind.
And when too.
Yeah, well, I started doing this just as a hobby, like a lot of people, on my kitchen table about 4 or 5 years ago. And with no real aspirations beyond just, hey, I wanted to mod some pedals for my own benefit and just, see how they sounded and see what the possibilities were. And it just kind of organically grew from there, where I was doing this. And then I'd have some friends ask me to do, some pedals for them. And then they'd tell some people, and someone would contact me and ask if I could do this. And then, oh, by the way, I have this thing to fix. Can you fix this? And probably a couple years ago was the tipping point where it grew beyond just a hobby. And then I got an actual, space outside of our house, which my wife was very happy about. And suddenly I'm not doing it on the kitchen table anymore. And I've actually got like a workshop / showroom where we're going in every day and working on pedals. So primarily what I do is repair, build, and modify pedals. So I don't have like a large amount of my own product that I'm offering, but I do a lot of services where I'm modifying, repairing, building some kits from scratch. And then we branched off into other things like instrument cables, and I do some microphone mods, and I do some work on amplifiers and stuff like that. So we try and keep it kind of diverse and interesting.
Yeah.
And,
where did you get your electronic skills from? Is that something you have always done, or like
since I was a teenager, I like a lot of people that were probably my age and were curious about that, as I bought the Greg Anderton book, Electronic Projects for Musicians, and kind of tinkered with that. Yeah, I mean, it really is like, I mean, you hear this story so many times from many of the people that do this, but it really is kind of the Bible for what we do. And this was before the internet, when you couldn't just readily find all this information online. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of naively and, perhaps foolishly thought that everyone knew how to solder. And so when people started coming to me about, oh, can you mod this? Can you repair this? And I just thought like, oh, there's actually a demand for this service that I just, like I said, kind of assumed that everyone knew how to do. Yeah. And I think it kind of intimidates some people, or some people just, they play and they create music and they don't want to bother with, being hunched over a soldering iron, breathing fumes in. And I can't say I blame them.
Yeah. I did that all day today.
Exactly.
It is rather addicting though. I mean, there is something about it. Like if you finally, beyond a single, just a quick fix on an output jack or something, like really digging in and getting dirty with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you start from scratch and you're populating a board and wiring it up, and you just get in that zone, and all of a sudden, there was so many late nights that
You're like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, you want 4 of those? Yeah, I can have 4 of them ready for you tomorrow. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, do customers call you? Well, let me start over. Do you get customers that call and they want a specific mod done to their pedal, and they name specific songs or records or anything like? Do you get anything like that?
Yeah, well, we'll get people that are looking for a very specific sound, or maybe they'll tell me what kind of gear they have or what kind of tone they're going for. And, you mentioned like the SD1, that's such a ubiquitous pedal that there's countless mods available for that. And you can go so many different directions with it depending on the sound you're looking for. And because it's so close, in circuit design as the Tube Screamer, a lot of those mods will apply. And so it goes both ways. Or there's people that maybe they just saw a demo or heard about the mod that I do to a particular pedal, and they just already like how it sounds, and they just want, the kind of standard off the shelf mod that I've developed for it.
Right.
So it can go either way, where, sometimes they'll place their trust in me that it's going to sound great, or else, sometimes they have some very particular ideas of their own. And either way I can accommodate. So
that's cool. What, I mean, aside from the Dead Bat, which, is that your like proprietary invention?
Well, I can't claim to invent it because it's a voltage regulator, and that's been around for ages. But I think I was, one of the first to kind of put it inside of a box and offer it for sale as like a standalone unit. And it's just one of those kind of dumb, simple things that I enjoy playing around with it and seeing how it behaves with different pedals. And, people seem to like it. So when we sell a lot of them, but it's not some big,
what's the entry, the price point is like magic right there. It's like,
and that was intentional on our part. Like we wanted something that was very entry level that, hey, you get this in the mail, but here's our business card and here's a sticker and here's some fun stuff. And now that person's calling me because they have something they need fixed, or they have a pedal they want modified. And it's just a way for us to build a brand and get our name out there.
A heck of a great idea, man. A heck of a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So,
and for the pedals that are large enough, like the Big Muffs and the Rats, you can actually fit that same circuit inside and have it built into the pedal.
Right.
And I want to compare that to something similar. Eddie Van Halen, he looks for I don't know, that one guy. He looks for old PAFs that, like, he's got one, I think the one that was in his Frankenstein, where if you put a meter to it, it doesn't read out, but the thing still works. And I had a pickup like that at one time. You put the meter to read the ohm. It doesn't read anything, but the thing still works. I mean,
Interesting.
it's weird, and it doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that has anything to do with the same concept of a dead battery, where the connection is, I don't know, there's enough there connected to actually still work, but not to read out any data, on the meter.
Well, and at a certain point, most circuits are just, it's you're just not going to hear anything because they're not getting enough voltage to where it can function. Particularly with digital pedals, like this will not work with them because they want to see that constant, 9 volts or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't comment on the pickup thing. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was, and you know what? The pickup sounded like there was nothing wrong with it. Like it wasn't even going dead. It was the weirdest thing in the world.
That's what legends are made of.
Oh yeah, it was different. And what did I do? I sold it because it was worth. I wish I would have just kept it somewhere, but I sold it because I was actually first starting out doing pickups and whatever. But that the dead 9-volt thing kind of brought me back to that. So I thought I would mention it.
It was fun. So what? Obviously, you've done a ton of mods. What is one of your favorite mods to do?
Favorite ones to do? Well, some of the ones that I'm kind of most proud of that we sell a lot of would be the standard Big Muff one for the current issue Big Muff. And
what does that do?
It's pretty extensive as far as the circuit mods that go, but the objective is that anyone who's played Big Muffs, they sound great oftentimes when you're hanging out in your bedroom, but because of that characteristic scoop mid-range sound, if you play with a band, a lot of times your guitar just gets completely buried and disappears in the mix.
Right.
And so the mod addresses that, but also makes
it's a mid boost.
Yes, and it just makes the gain a little smoother and like creamier, for lack of a better word, but also the tone control, which it's kind of a blend of like a high and low cut. It makes that more usable. So
right.
It just makes for a much better sounding pedal and a much more usable one in a band setting.
That makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you are maybe currently trying to develop or something that has stymied you?
That's a good question. Well, one thing that I'm doing that's kind of exciting that I can announce is that I partnered with Kevin from Aeon Electronics, and he's developed a Lab Series L5 preamp in a pedal. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Lab Series amps from it must have been like the 80s, but they're solid state, designed by Moog. And they're considered by a lot of people like kind of the best like tube-like amps as far as solid state goes. 2 channels. And he basically took that preamp circuit from those and developed it into a pedal, which it's got 2 channels and like a compressor circuit. But he sells these kind of DIY kits, but we're going to be doing a small run of them that I'm going to build and offer for sale, and they'll be like the completed Lab Series preamp pedal.
That's pretty cool.
Complete with nicely screen printed and drilled enclosure and a Lab Series badge on them, and it'll look like anything else out there, a boutique that you could buy off the shelf, and so that's going to be exciting, and for a small builder like myself, that's going to be a pretty nice project to tackle and to offer up for sale.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Where we just pulled up some of the Lab Series. It's so funny how you can say like, oh, name, and you can scratch your head, and then the minute you see it, you're like, oh, that.
Oh, yeah, you've seen them around forever.
the two big users, and probably why people are even familiar with him, would be BB King and the guy from King's X, because those first King's X
that's
albums
the one.
back in the day, it's
That's
like
what
a
I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Strat through those was his signature tone for a long time.
I thought it was a trainer. It was a
No,
lab series.
it was a lab series for those first like 4 albums, I think.
I knew I heard the name. I just couldn't put it together.
So, I mean, this is an interesting concept because you can use it, of course, as a standalone guitar pedal if you would like, but it's got so much gain that it's capable of, where you can run it just straight into a power amp and just use it, as kind of a dedicated preamp for your guitar.
Huh. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. That'll be a fun thing to work on. We have the prototype done, and I got it back from him, and he kind of gave his stamp of approval on it, and said yes, everything's cool. It sounds the way that it should, but it's a pretty complex build. It's crazy, like how much is packed under the hood in that thing.
Yeah, a lot of knobs.
A lot of knobs. I'm looking at it right now. 11 op amps. A couple of voltage regulators. What is it? 10 knobs, 10 potentiometers inside, with a couple of internal ones as well. So
What kind of price are we looking at?
It's going to be, target is about $325.
Okay.
So it is not for the faint of heart or wallet, but it's just because it's a pretty involved build.
But if you want it, so he's got, I guess on that site, he's got the actual board.
Yes.
That you can buy, which is, if you're doing DIY pedals, that's sort of like, that's the Everest of
Yes.
That looks awesome. I'm going on my second do-it-yourself build, right?
Nice.
And like, I'm totally hooked. I'm gonna keep making them, and we're gonna just start giving them away on Instagram and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I'm looking at that populated board, and I'm just thinking, oh, that looks like so much fun. Now, attaching all the stinking potentiometers is a whole different story. But
yes,
you know what? I've repaired our old LCD TV to get it to work again, and you can buy the kits, and they're not as involved as that thing.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, monster. So I have a couple more questions. I think these guys do too. We've got, I'd say, a little bit left in the tank here. As you are working with so many pedals, I think it's weird. Like a guitar has 90% of the same components as any other guitar, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As does a pedal.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an answer for this, cool. If not, like, no worries. But is there something that you see in pedals that you're like, why isn't there a better one of this? Why isn't there a different way to do this? That doesn't require you manufacturing it, or maybe that is something and you're like, I wish I could get somebody to manufacture this. But just out of curiosity, because you probably touch more pedals than most people in the world, right? Yeah.
Well, what fascinates me, and I don't know if this is getting at what you're asking, but like, when I have something on the bench for a repair, or there's such a wide range or variance in quality, not only with like the parts used, but with the circuit design and even with just the assembly among all these pedals. And some are, I'm not going to name any names, but it's like there's some that are like boutique pedals that are, being sold at a premium for, and you open them up and, it's like, wow, there's a reason that this thing is in the shop for a repair, because
right.
They're so poorly done. And just even with the component selection, sometimes, rather than spend the extra few cents to have some, thicker gauge wire, it's all connected with some really cheap, thin ribbon wire that, you just look at it wrong and it disintegrates and falls apart.
Right.
And it's got to be just strictly a cost saving measure at that part, because I can't imagine like why you would choose to use that if it wasn't cost effective. So yeah, I did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, internally, I definitely understand that. I think part of the draw to pedals is, it's kind of like if you're looking at wine bottles or something, you're like, ooh, that one looks like it would taste good. It looks like it would taste good, which is a completely
totally
stupid
marketing
thing to say.
Yeah, it's totally marketing.
But that's, it isn't just the big 4 or 3 or 4 companies making anything. It's like I can't think of any other explosion of something that is a technical product, or hell, even any other kind of product. Yeah. We've had these discussions where I'm like, I can't think of a single thing that has blown up with the magnitude and the breadth that this has so fast, and is still completely and utterly engulfing and intriguing.
I would compare it to the craft beer industry right now,
except for that, which I didn't think of. Damn.
Yeah, and I tell people that all the time, is like, we're in this golden age of pedals where there's never been more of a selection and options and amazing stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that way. I've got some friends that work at breweries, and even here in Chicago, man, like 5 years ago, there was no breweries, and now there's, one on every block, it seems like.
Right.
So
I think people, like, when we look back at like maybe the last 5 years, or if we say this decade, like just, a general decade, I absolutely think that this will be regarded in a comparative to Renaissance.
Yeah.
Where everything, like fashion, artistry, food, beer, guitars, like everybody, it's like everybody all of a sudden got a microphone, and everybody has a voice. And there's somebody that wants to listen to every one of those voices now.
Yeah.
It's really astounding.
No, you're right. And the result is that it's, even though the choices can be sometimes overwhelming, like there's stuff out there that was never available before, that do things that, were never available before. And so as a guitar player or as a musician, just creating music, like it's a great time to, have those options available.
If you think about it in musical sense too, like think about when punk rock blew up.
Mm-hmm. It
blew up because everybody saw everybody else doing something that they're like, wait a minute, they're doing that. I can do. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on and so on and so on, and it just blew up, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as that. As soon as like the makership thing was demystified and we had access to everything, for, easy to get parts, easy to understand, instruction, and the allowance to say, hey, it's okay if you mess it up.
Yeah.
That actually might be cooler if you do.
The same thing's happening in the pickup world as well. I started out 10 years ago, and the last 2 or 3 years, I see a new pickup builder name guy about once a month. There's some sort of new pickup guy around doing something. And
amplifiers too.
Oh yeah.
It's the access to the information is what's doing it. And I'm a part of 2 pickup winder forums, and everybody is telling everybody how they're doing everything. And I'm not. I'll give advice here and there, but gosh, man, I think you have to hide a few things under your sleeve to.
I'm glad you didn't say skirt.
Yeah. Well, if I had a skirt, I would hide some of that stuff in that skirt too. Yeah, you gotta save some for yourself.
Dang. Yeah. So, anyways, I was just thinking about that. Looking at spending time digging into your work, and I think it's one thing that we didn't really talk about is that there's so many pickup builders, right? Which we did cover, but I love the fact that you are not a pickup, or sorry, not pickups, pedals.
Sorry, man.
My bad. You got me talking about pickups.
Sorry.
You are not another pedal company. I mean, you are a pedal company, but you said, here's this thing that I really like to do. And that's at the core of all of the great things that are happening. You find that one thing that you're like, oh man, I get so excited about this particular thing, and you ran with it.
And
that's cool.
Part of it was by design, because there's people much smarter than me that are designing and building effects from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any kind of formal electronics training, and everything that I've done is self-taught. And I've been asked many a time, to develop a line of pedals, and it's something that I do have an interest in doing eventually. But at the same time, the last thing someone needs from me is another fuzz pedal out there in the world.
Right.
And so I tried to focus on like what my strengths were, and that just happened to be, repairing things, modifying things, doing some real kind of high quality professional builds of a lot of the kits that are available out there.
Yeah.
And, people knowing that if they buy it from me, it's going to be done correctly and done well, and carries a guarantee with it, so that if anything went wrong with it later on, they can, bring it back to me and I'll take care of them. And it's not just some, bedroom build or something.
And you have a cool logo.
Well, thank you.
That's what you and I have in common as well.
So, and along with that, I think I just got really lucky, because a lot of the bigger companies that are kind of known for doing this type of more like service work, rather than having like a brand, line of products that they offer, stopped doing this. Yeah. And so, Keeley does not do mods anymore. JHS, I don't want to speak for them, but I still think they're at the point where they're not really doing any mods or repairs or anything.
Yeah. You see them on Reverb, but those might be throwbacks. Yeah.
I think so. Unless they're doing like modifying new pedals and selling those out of their custom shop or whatever. Okay. I have a good rapport with those guys, so I should check and not speak for them. But the result is that there's fewer options when you need something like that done, and it's pretty much me and Analog Man and maybe a handful of other people.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at what I'm doing as more along those lines, where I'm offering that service to people, and that's what it is.
That's cool.
What I tried to say before is that's something you and I have in common as far as a warranty, and I also I have similar warranties. If you're still alive and I'm still alive, the warranty's still good.
Yep.
And
that's exactly what mine is. If as long as I have air in my lungs, there's ever an issue with the craftsmanship or the work that I did, not to say that if someone plugs in the wrong power supply into a pedal and fries it, that they're going to get a free repair from me 5 years from now. But if it's something obvious that was related to the work that I did, I always just repair them free of charge. But to be honest with you, rarely does that happen.
Same here. If you know you're using the best and you're putting it together the right way, you don't have a problem having that policy. I just wanted to enlighten that.
Yeah.
Highlight that.
And, there's other companies out there that, pedal companies or gear companies that I've had those kind of experiences with. And those are the ones that I always recommend to people because they've got such a, what I would consider a very fair and generous policy regarding that, rather than looking at it like someone's trying to take advantage of them, or that it's it's somehow a hassle that someone's sending something back to them because it doesn't work, and they stand behind their products, and that's why they're probably still successful. And You know, while I'll recommend them to people.
Well, solid, man. Let's hit up our top 4 real quick, and as we wrap this up. So our top 4 this week is connection area of choice. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it.
Connection placement on the pedal of choice.
Yeah, because you don't want to say input because it's input and output. But you want it in the back, or you want it that's terrible.
Or on the sides.
You want it on the sides. This is something that is like
it's a hot topic on the gear page.
It really is, man. It's crazy. It's like this is like it's important if you are populating a board. It matters. So
it's really what our leaders should be talking about during this election season. Top or side mounted jacks.
Right.
Those are the issues that really matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So on that, Brandon, what do you say?
You know,
Bottom.
that is a really hard question, man. Right.
Well, you got a 50-50 chance of getting it wrong. So
I know, man. Big on it. Well, let me tell you, the sides are okay because you can use the angled. You could use the angled patch cords.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an old term, but gotta have the angled patch cords if you're going to do this side. And the sides are okay to me.
Okay.
And it whatever is more durable within the pedal, however it lasts longer. That's what really matters to me is durability. And so far the sides have been pretty good with good quality pedals.
Okay, so you got sides. All right,
Sides,
Hefe, what do you got?
I'm going to say side, depending where the actual power jack is. So
Good call.
I don't know how much. I know since these are fairly low powered, but keeping the input jack or the line DC circuit in away from the cords. Supposedly, you don't want to get any crosstalk and any of that good stuff.
Interesting.
So our pedal guy could tell us if that's really a fallacy.
Yeah, he will in a second. I'm going with top mounted because populating a board, the sides, I flipping hate it. I don't like the idea that I got to squish my pass cables and ugh.
I'm with you on that too. I don't like that idea, but
I don't want to do it, but I have to. It's what I got to do. All right, Johnny, bring us home.
Well, I hate to play devil's advocate, but I think it really depends on the cables you're using. And as you pointed out, the location of the power supply. As far as a neat look, I think top mounted tends to look a little neater on a pedal board when you've got like all top mounted jacks. But if you're using these kind of low profile angled connectors like George L's or anything else, those go on the side. They look pretty slick.
Yeah.
But power supply is going to matter, because I've seen pedals with side mounted jacks, power on the back, or side mounted jacks, and then they place the power on one of the sides.
Yeah.
And those I don't like as much out of the different choices, because I think that tends to look kind of sloppy, and then you have to worry about how you're running those cables and making sure that everything doesn't compete with each other.
Yeah. No slip shoddiness.
From an assembly standpoint, the top mounted tend to be a little easier to wire up, and the finished product looks a little neater because you're just running equal lengths of wire to connect, the lugs on the jacks to the circuit board.
Yeah.
But that just will vary too, depending on, the particular circuit board and its design. So
yeah,
I guess if I had to choose between one, I'd say top mounted because I think it is a little cleaner look. But you can't really use.
So Johnny's with me. I like it.
Yeah, you can't use angled jacks on those though.
I'm not against either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were.
I felt like you were. Why you hate things so much? All right, Johnny, we're gonna wrap this up.
Excellent.
Oh, dude, I'm so glad we got to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. This was great.
Yeah, it was super fun. And I hope that anybody who's listening, if you guys have comments or questions, shoot them over to Johnny or us. And so you want to give a shout out for your site and stuff, Johnny?
Yeah, it's just Alchemy, ALCHEMY audio.com. If you do a Google search, it should come up right at the top. And I'm also pretty active on Facebook and Instagram, so that's probably the best way to kind of keep up to date on what I might be working on any particular day.
And you got a reverb shop too, right?
I do.
Cool.
Yeah.
And an unmistakable sticker logo with a giant A on it with electrical stuff.
And you got the rock cards too, right?
Oh yeah, that was super cool.
What'd you get for the rock card?
I got Megadeth. I was like,
nice.
Wait, did you know that? Like, because I have Dave Mustaine's guitar pick in my wallet. He threw at me, so I was like, oh, that's cool, man.
I've actually done a little bit of work for Chris Poland.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's still out there kicking with his band Ohm.
Oh wow. Yeah, so that's another bonus. If you order something from Johnny, you get a whole box of goodies, which is it's kind of like going to a show or a swap meet.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna let you go. Have an awesome evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That was weird because that only came through my left ear.
Why is that?
Burps are always funny. Oh, that's it for these knobs. Please join us on Facebook.com/groups/guitar knobs and tell us what you think and share your stories and guitar stuff along with ours. You can also find us at twitter.com/guitar_knobs and also at our website at guitarknobs.podbean.com.